We had a good look at your defence, added up the games played, divided it by 6, and it's around about 153 games per player. And that means, obviously, you're experienced, but also you are very predictable to each other in the way that you play. I thought Corey Enright was wonderful on Friday night in Adelaide.
Corey, he had an amazing game on Friday night. I think the top three there, I guess, myself, Darren and Matt have played a lot of footy together, and you know that a lot of football comes down to chemistry and teamwork, and we've spent a lot of time together, and I guess the nucleus of the age is down back, so it's working well for us at the minute.
Sorry, Jude, I was just going to ask you, Steve Johnson said at game day at the weekend that the players tend to take control of coaching one day a week. What does that mean?
Oh, it's just we just have drills where the players sort of, it's more interactive. It's basically, not necessarily handing over the reins to the players, but it's just an open forum where we get to talk about certain areas of the game, and the players are the ones playing it and probably have as good an idea as any as what's happening out there, so you may as well sort of share that information, I think.
So who's the most switched on amongst your teammates as far as the way the game's played?
I think in certain different areas, I think Cameron Ling's got a really good feel for the game. I think he could, I guess it's almost a question, who could potentially go into coaching almost. Yeah. Steve Johnson's right up there, and obviously Gary Ablett and Jimmy Bartell, and down back I'd say Scarlett and Milburn see the game as well as any.
You saw our footage before of ANZ Stadium.
Yeah.
You've got an appointment there in round 20. Is the ground on what you've seen suitable for AFL football?
Not the way it presented then, I wouldn't have thought so. So that's a concern. Also, I mean, if you're looking long term as well, and you're talking a side in West Sydney where you're going to play a game there a week or whatever, they would want to fix it up because it's not A, safe, or B, a great advertisement for the game.
You're sitting there at the start of the program listening to the discussion regarding Barry Hall. Where are footy clubs at now with, for the first time I think in the history of the game, a psychologist is going to have a major role and say in the future of a footy player and therefore its club?
Yeah, I've got an interesting take. I think it's been something that's probably been simmering for a while. Football now has become obviously very full-time. Pressures and all those sorts of things are heightened, and we are young men who have all sorts of issues that go through, and footy clubs will really need to go down that path of having the expert advice, and if that means a full-time psychologist, I think that's probably the way it's got to go. I know Pippa Grange does a great work at the AFLPA with that kind of stuff, but that's almost an appointment-based sort of situation.
Nathan Buckley made the point today that Paul Roos is obviously the man in Sydney, but he puts people in positions and he allows them to have significant say. I mean, you couldn't have imagined it 15 years ago that a psychologist would determine whether Barry Hall was playing or not.
But it's a rare problem in this context, though. It's really surfaced. We don't see clear evidence of psychological problems in footballers very often. I mean, sometimes blokes do zany things, but I mean, this is a very unusual set of circumstances.
It's a rare situation, isn't it?
No, there's no question by anyone about your courage in a football context, but do you think the generic player would be concerned playing around Barry Hall in the frame of mind he's in at the moment?
I don't know. The game, I don't think so, actually. I think the game has become, I think the game has become so sort of well run and officiated that you have faith in that service, that the umpires will do the right job, and also faith in the players playing the game. But obviously the Staker incident was unsavoury, and the Wakeland one could have been as well. So it's a really tough one.
Tom, you're captain, you're leader, your younger players look up to you. Who do you have as a mentor? Do you have a mentor?
Yeah, I do. I guess sit down and chew the fat with a few people that I really respect in that sort of area, I won't name them, but I certainly do. And it's not so much about leading a football team. It's probably just about having value-based life, I guess, and I try to lead a football club as closely aligned to life, real life, as I can, and so I've got some guys that some men that I talk to about things like that.
Let's go off the field. You're 30, I think, in about a week's time.
Yep.
Your fiancée Felicity resides in Sydney.
She does.
Is there any question about your future next year? I mean, do you have to sort of address your relationship situation, or can it continue going the way it is?
No, it can continue. And it's, I mean, my future, I'm out of contract at the end of this year, but it's, I mean, my contract negotiations are not really an issue. If the club want me to play next year, I'll play, and I'm sure I will, and I'm sure they will. So after that, we'll just play it year by year. But you know, her career is up in Sydney, and she's fantastic. She comes down basically every weekend, so we try to keep it as normal. We probably see more of each other than plenty of fiancés, so it works pretty well.
Sound like you need a psychologist if that's the case. Tom, Gary Lyon wrote an interesting article about leadership today in the Herald Sun. Did you read it by any chance? Because I think if you had to hand something to a up-and-coming captain,
right,
it listed the qualities particularly well.
I've heard about it. I haven't actually read it in depth, but are you going to fill me in what they said, Jared?
I'll ask you this then. If you had to enunciate to somebody the qualities that you needed for a captain, what would they be in your mind?
Well, it's become a really holistic position, I think, at AFL clubs. You've gone from, well, the approach I've taken anyway is not so much the captain of the football team, but the captain of the football club. And that's something I really enjoyed doing and being a part of, whereas some players might focus their energies totally on the team, which is fine as well. So it's definitely it's a big gig, no doubt about it, and I've really enjoyed it. I've had a blast.
Which captain do you most admire of the other 15 clubs?
I admire Brett Kirk unreservedly. I think obviously the way he plays, he's a very good player, a fantastic player, but just these almost the spiritual side to leadership he brings is something that I really envy, and he's certainly one that I look up to. And I mean, they're all great. You know, I'm not sort of begrudging anyone, but Kirky's pretty inspirational to me.
Can we finish where we started, and that is your immediate thought when you got the cup off Fred Waller that we showed at the top of your segment?
It was it was an amazing sort of feeling. It was just fantastic. And Fred, I've actually developed quite a good friendship with Fred, and Fred Flanagan as well, for that matter. I should probably change my name to Fred, perhaps. But it was amazing. It was something I'd never dreamed of, and it was never, you know, especially being captain, was never anything that I really aspired to, and the way it panned out, and just the overwhelming support from our supporters. You know, the hardship, the hardships that they've experienced, they just really enjoyed and embraced it, and it just whet the appetite to want to do it again.
Tom's been great having you in. Thanks for driving up the road.